What if I told you that everything you're clinging to right now, your fears, your hopes, your doubts, is going to change? Marcus Aurelius once said, "Observe constantly that all things take place by change." See, but most of us resist it. We fear the unknown, wait for life to stabilize, and in doing so, miss the very moments that shape us. But what if the chaos was never the problem? What if your waiting was the training? In this video, we'll uncover 10 powerful Stoic truths to help you face uncertainty with calm, strength, and purpose. You'll learn how to endure with dignity, adapt without losing yourself, and grow right in the middle of life's storms. If you're tired of fearing change and ready to transform through it, like this video, subscribe, and let's begin.
Number 1.
Accept the storm without forecasting the future. One of the most destructive habits of the human mind is the urge to live in a future that hasn't happened. We don't just think about tomorrow, we obsess over it. We play out worst-case scenarios, imagine betrayals that haven't occurred, and anticipate disasters that never arrive. The Stoics called this prolepsis, the anticipation of things to come, and they considered it a thief of peace. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome and master of inner discipline, warned against it over and over. "Never let the future disturb you," he wrote in Meditations. "You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." This wasn't poetic idealism. Marcus was writing from the battlefield of life itself. As Rome's most powerful man, he faced war, famine, betrayal, and disease. And yet, through it all, he grounded himself not in fantasies of what could happen, but in reason, what he called the inner citadel, that unshakable center we all have access to when we stop imagining disaster and start standing still. In modern life, however, we do the opposite. A silence in a conversation becomes rejection. A small health issue becomes a life-threatening illness in our mind. A career delay feels like a life sentence. Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." He was right. Because the mind untrained creates chaos. It projects fear into every quiet moment. And instead of responding, we react emotionally, irrationally, and prematurely. But Stoicism trains us to separate what we feel from what is real. It calls us to return to what's within our control, our perceptions, our judgments, our actions. Epictetus reminded his students that it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. Sure, if you think the storm will break you, it likely will. But if you believe that your character is stronger than circumstances, you create the conditions to endure. Admiral James Stockdale lived this truth. Captured during the Vietnam War, tortured and held in isolation for over 7 years, he found strength not in predicting his rescue, but in refusing to abandon who he was. He anchored his mind in the present and focused only on what he could control: his dignity, his discipline, and his daily decisions. He credited his survival to Epictetus, the Stoic slave-turned-teacher who taught that freedom is not external, it's internal. So what does this mean for you? It means you don't have to control the future to face it. You only need to control how you meet the moment in front of you. You don't need to read the forecast. You need to become the one who is ready regardless of the weather. Because when you stop bracing for the worst and start standing in the present, you become powerful. And that power cannot be taken by any storm. The next time your mind drifts into fear, pause. Ask yourself, is this real, or is it a rehearsal for pain? Then return gently but firmly to what you can do right now. You are not the storm. You are the anchor. Stay grounded, Mar. Stay unshaken.
Number 2.
Patience is not passive. When most people hear the word patience, they think of waiting, of doing nothing, of simply enduring time until things improve. But that's not the kind of patience the Stoics practiced. True patience in the Stoic sense is not weakness or passivity. It is preparation under pressure. It is the quiet force that holds the line, not by idly hoping for things to change, but by actively becoming stronger while they don't. Seneca wrote, "No man was ever wise by chance. Wisdom, strength, clarity, they are built in the waiting, but not through boredom or stagnation. Through effort, the Stoic is not passive while waiting. He is training his mind, developing discipline, clearing his judgment. Even when the world seems paused, the Stoic moves inward and asks, what can I improve now, before anything outside me changes? We often look at inaction as weakness, but the truth is, many of the most powerful transformations happen in silence. Take Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in prison. The world saw a man locked away, but what they didn't see was the patience he turned into preparation. Behind bars, Mandela read, studied, reflected, trained his heart. When he finally walked free, he was not bitter, he was ready. That is Stoic patience. Not hoping things go your way, but using adversity to become someone who can handle any way things go. Epictetus said, "Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. And your life will be serene." That is the kind of serenity born not from surrender, but from strategic patience. It is the decision to let time work on you while life seems stalled. Now, in today's culture, we are conditioned to believe that if nothing is happening, something is wrong. We chase results. We crave updates. We refresh, reload, and repeat. But progress doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes growth hides in stillness. Just like a seed beneath the earth, something is always forming when you're cultivating your inner ground. Marcus Aurelius faced military setbacks, plagues, and political chaos. There were periods where it seemed nothing could be done, but he never allowed those moments to become dead space. He used them to write, to reflect, to command himself when he could not command the world. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. So, if life feels slow, if your path feels blocked, don't mistake the silence for failure. That's your moment to train. That's your chance to prove who you are before the results arrive. Stoic patience is not about waiting for something to save you. It's about becoming someone who doesn't need saving. Every second you wait is a second you can build clarity, build self-control, build strength. The world may not move for you yet, but you can move within yourself. And when the time finally comes to act, you'll be prepared, not panicked. You won't just survive change. You'll meet it on your terms.
Number 3.
The illusion of forever. We live as if things will last forever. We cling to relationships as if they will never change. We hold on to routines, identities, jobs, even emotions, as if they're permanent fixtures in a world that's built on impermanence. But the Stoics taught that nothing external is truly ours. Not because life is cruel, but because life is in constant motion. And pretending otherwise is not security, it's self-deception. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself often, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. This wasn't meant to be grim. It was meant to be liberating. When you stop expecting things to last forever, you begin to appreciate them for what they are. Temporary, beautiful, and meaningful precisely because they won't last. So many people suffer not because of what they lose, but because they believed it would always be there. A friend drifts away and you feel betrayed. A role at work changes and you feel displaced. But beneath that pain is often a rigid belief. This was supposed to be permanent. And when that illusion shatters, it's not just sadness, it's identity collapse. The Stoics knew this well. They trained their minds to expect change, not dread it. Seneca wrote, "No condition is so bitter that a stable mind cannot find some consolation in it." He believed that by accepting the transient nature of all things, we free ourselves from the fear of loss. Imagine if instead of clinging, you observed. Instead of grasping, you appreciated. That's what Stoicism offers. A way to remain grounded even as the world shifts beneath your feet. Consider Steve Jobs. In his famous Stanford commencement speech, he said, "Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose." He wasn't a Stoic, but the wisdom echoes them perfectly. The awareness of impermanence isn't morbid. It's clarity. It removes ego, removes entitlement, and leaves only presence. Now here's the challenge. Can you look at your life right now and release the grip just a little? Can you acknowledge that this moment, this phase, this relationship might not last, and love it more because of that? Most people numb themselves to this reality. Stoic leans into it, not out of pessimism, but out of reverence. Because when you realize that even the best parts of life are on borrowed time, you stop wasting time. You stop arguing over small things. You stop delaying your joy. And this doesn't just apply to happiness. It also applies to pain. Just as joy is fleeting, so is sorrow. The heartbreak will dull. The confusion will clear. The uncertainty will pass. The Stoic doesn't cling to pleasure or resist pain. They see both as passing clouds in the same sky. So the next time you feel desperate to hold on to something, a feeling, a person, a certainty, pause. Ask yourself, am I trying to make this moment eternal? If so, let go gently. Let go wisely. And remember, what is meant to endure is not what lasts forever, but what transforms you in the process.
Number 4.
Grow while you wait. Most people treat waiting as wasted time. Whether it's waiting for clarity, opportunity, or closure, they enter a kind of mental freeze, scrolling, distracting, complaining. But to a Stoic, waiting is not a pause in life. It's part of life, and not just any part, but a critical one. Because the way you wait reveals the way you live. Waiting is not idleness, it is a mirror. And what you see in that mirror depends on how you choose to use the time. Marcus Aurelius once asked himself, "Why are you not running to do what your nature demands?" That line wasn't written in action, it was written in stillness. During moments when he couldn't move the world, he turned inward and trained himself. The Stoic mindset says, you don't need to be in motion to be in mastery. You don't need an external result to pursue internal growth. Growth to the Stoic is not seasonal. It's continual, quiet, and self-driven. Yet in our culture, stillness is often confused with stagnation. We associate progress with movement, speed, and achievement. If we're not checking boxes or being seen, we feel like we're falling behind. But some of the most profound growth happens invisibly. A tree doesn't look like it's growing every day, but it is. And so are you if you choose to cultivate your inner landscape. Take Leonardo da Vinci as an example. He famously took years, sometimes decades, to complete works, not because he was lazy, but because he used the in-between moments to sharpen his understanding. When asked about his slow pace, he replied, "Art is never finished, only abandoned." In those quiet phases, he studied anatomy, observed nature, took meticulous notes. He was never idle. He was becoming. His genius wasn't just in what he created. It was in how deeply he prepared during the stillness. This is what the Stoics understood. Life is not just about what you do when the world watches. It's about what you build in the shadows. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." Therefore, that process begins when nothing seems to be happening. You become the person you want to be before life tests you. You prepare, refine, train, not for recognition, but for readiness. So how do you grow while you wait? You read, you write, you reflect. You practice discipline in small things. You clean your inner space. You confront your distractions. Not because you're waiting for life to start, but because you know life is already happening in every moment of delay. Every pause is a chance to either drift further from yourself or return closer to your center. Seneca believed that time is either invested or lost. He wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." And one of the biggest wastes is resenting the wait instead of using it. Because even when nothing moves around you, you can move deeply within yourself. So the next time you find yourself stuck, between chapters, between answers, between versions of yourself? Don't ask how long it will take. Ask instead, who am I becoming while I wait? That's the real work. That's where character is shaped. And that's where real growth begins.
Number 5.
Hope without dependency. Hope is powerful. It gives us the energy to keep moving, to believe that change is possible, and to endure hardship with our eyes on something better. But hope, if misunderstood, becomes a trap. Because when your hope depends on something outside of you, a specific outcome, a person changing, or the world treating you fairly, you hand over your peace to forces you cannot control. The Stoics didn't reject hope, they purified it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Do not look around at the things you cannot control, but rather focus your effort on what is your own." To him, real hope wasn't a wish for the world to change. It was a deep trust in your own ability to meet whatever the world brings. It's not, "I hope it gets easier," but rather, "I hope I grow stronger." That is Stoic hope. Hope rooted in your capacity, not your circumstances. Too often, people wait for things to get better before they allow themselves to feel better. They say, "I'll be happy when," or "I'll feel peace if." That mindset is slavery in disguise. It delays freedom. It says your joy belongs to someone else's decision or the universe's next move. But Epictetus taught, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. And the ultimate freedom is emotional independence. Let's look at a powerful example, Viktor Frankl. Though not a Stoic by title, his life mirrored Stoic strength. After surviving the horrors of a concentration camp, he wrote Man's Search for Meaning, and in it, he made a life-changing observation. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. His hope wasn't naive optimism. It was grounded in the unshakable belief that no matter how brutal life became, he still had the power to choose how to respond. This is what Stoic hope teaches us. Don't tie your hope to a timeline. Don't anchor it to whether things work out the way you want. Instead, build hope on the trust that you can face anything and remain whole. This shift changes everything. Because suddenly you're no longer anxiously checking for signs that life is improving. You're improving. You're becoming. And that's what gives the future its brightness. Not the unknown itself, but who you are becoming while facing it. Hope without dependency is not detachment. It's devotion to growth, to resilience, to inner stability. It's the kind of hope that doesn't crumble when things go wrong, because it was never built on things going right. It's the hope that stays with you even in silence, even in pain, even in delay. The Stoics didn't teach us to stop hoping. They taught us to stop outsourcing it. So the next time you feel that familiar ache of waiting for good news, for validation, for the world to reward you, pause. Take your hope back. Rebuild it where it can't be shaken, inside your character. Because that's the only place where hope becomes unbreakable. Number 6, reframe the wait. We've been taught to see waiting as something passive, a delay, a pause, something that stands between us and what we really want. But the Stoics flipped that view entirely. To them, waiting wasn't a void to endure. It was a forge, a sacred space to reshape yourself. It was not lost time. It was living time. The difference between frustration and transformation lies not in how long you wait, but in how you frame the wait. Marcus Aurelius, during moments of deep uncertainty, didn't see stalled progress as failure. Instead, he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That wasn't just a motivational quote. It was a declaration of power. What seems to delay you is, in fact, refining you. If you meet it with the right mindset, the very thing you thought was in your way becomes your way forward. Consider this. Most people spend their waiting periods complaining, doubting, or mentally skipping ahead to the future. But what if the waiting wasn't the problem? What if your mindset was? Stoicism teaches that no moment is ever in between. Every moment is an opportunity. and especially the ones where nothing external is moving. Because those are the moments when you get to move internally. Take Maya Angelou, for example. She once experienced a long and painful period of writer's block. For months, the words wouldn't come, but she didn't walk away. She stayed with the silence. She showed up to the page again and again with patience and reverence. And eventually that silence gave birth to some of her most powerful work. She once said, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you." That agony, it wasn't a curse. It was part of her becoming. This is how Stoics train their minds. Not to avoid the weight, but to own it. Epictetus said, "Circumstances don't make the man, they reveal him." So if you're stuck in a chapter where progress is invisible, ask yourself, what is this moment revealing in me? Maybe it's exposing your need for control. Maybe it's highlighting a fear of stillness. Whatever it is, it's showing you where you need to grow. In today's fast-paced world, we see waiting as dead space. We fill it with distractions, refresh buttons, and shallow escapes. But that's a waste. A concern for worse. Seneca offered timeless wisdom when he said, "Hurry up and live." He didn't mean rush. He meant wake up, use the quiet times, use the delays, use the silence not to escape but to prepare. Because if you wait passively, time owns you. But if you wait actively, with awareness, with practice, with humility, you reclaim your time. You turn the wait into wisdom. You turn the delay into discipline. So the next time you find yourself saying, "I hate waiting," pause. Ask a different question. What is this moment asking of me? When you see waiting not as a punishment, but as a preparation, you stop trying to skip the chapter and start becoming the kind of person worth reading about. Number 7, adapt without losing yourself. Life will test you. People will change, environments will shift, and the world will demand that you bend. Adaptation is necessary. It's part of growth. But the Stoics warned of a subtle danger. When you adapt so much that you forget who you are, flexibility is wisdom. But if you bend too far for too long, you risk snapping. Real strength is being able to evolve without erasing yourself. The Stoics believed you could be responsive without being reactive, malleable in form, but unmoving in essence. Epictetus once said, "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." That's more than a motivational line. It's a strategy for self-preservation. Because if you don't define who you are, the world will do it for you. And the world is loud. It rewards mimicry, punishes difference, and demands that you shrink to fit its mold. But the Stoic doesn't shrink to fit. He expands to meet. He adapts his method, not his identity. In today's culture, the pressure to conform is everywhere. Social media constantly shifts the standard for what's acceptable, desirable, or worthy of attention. One day it's this trend, tomorrow it's the opposite. And in this whirlwind, it's easy to lose track of what actually matters to you. Seneca warned, "He who follows another not only finds nothing, but loses himself." And that's the greatest danger of unexamined adaptation. Not just losing direction, but losing self. Take Oprah Winfrey as a real-world example. Early in her career, she was told she didn't look or sound like what a talk show host was supposed to be. She faced immense pressure to change. But instead of bending until she broke, she adapted her technique while staying loyal to her truth. She refined her voice but didn't compromise her values. Her presence, once criticized, became iconic. Why? Because it was real. Her ability to adjust without losing herself is what turned her difference into dominance. This is what Stoicism teaches. Don't resist all change. Resist the kind that makes you forget who you are. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it's not right, don't do it. If it's not true, don't say it." These simple guidelines can serve as anchors when the tides of life get high. They remind you that not all movement is progress, and not all compromise is wisdom. Even in challenging environments, new jobs, social circles, or creative paths, you can remain grounded. The Stoic doesn't cling rigidly to one expression of self, But they know the difference between adjusting for growth and adjusting for approval. Like bamboo, they sway without breaking. Their strength is in their rootedness. So the next time you feel pressure to change your tone, your truth, your identity, don't rush to fit. Pause and ask, will I still respect myself after I make this change? If the answer is no, then that change isn't adaptation. It's abandonment. And the Stoic never abandons their soul to please the noise. They adapt with awareness, and they grow without forgetting who they were meant to be. Number 8, trust in cycles, not certainty. The modern mind craves certainty. We want predictable outcomes, clear timelines, and guaranteed success. But life doesn't work that way. It moves in cycles of growth and decline, clarity and confusion, fullness and emptiness. The Stoics knew this deeply. They didn't try to force permanence into a world of change. Instead, they built peace by aligning with nature's rhythms, not resisting them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Observe how all things are continually being born of change. The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." This wasn't a passive acceptance of fate. It was active engagement with the flow of reality. When you stop expecting life to stay the same, you start living with more grace. You begin to navigate uncertainty, not with panic, but with presence. However, many people live as if life should be linear. They expect constant growth, uninterrupted progress, and perpetual clarity. So, when life naturally dips, when energy fades, when relationships cool, when projects stall, they panic. They think something is wrong. But the Stoic sees those dips not as failures, but as necessary phases. Just as winter is not the death of the tree, but its rest, stillness, and decline are part of the rhythm that leads to renewal. This insight shows up powerfully in the creative life. Consider Elizabeth Gilbert, the author of Eat, Pray, Love. After her global success, she entered a deep creative drought. She admitted she was afraid she would never write something meaningful again. But instead of forcing inspiration, she chose to trust the cycle. She returned to writing not for fame, but for the love of the process. Eventually, her creativity returned because she didn't chase it. She aligned with it. This is what Stoicism encourages. Don't worship outcomes, trust the rhythm. Epictetus said, "Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will." That's not surrender. That's resilience. It's That's choosing to participate in life's unfolding rather than resenting its unpredictability. When you start seeing life as a series of cycles, you stop reacting to every dip as doom. You stop labeling every slowdown as regression. Instead, you begin to ask, what is this phase asking of me? Maybe it's asking for stillness. Maybe it's time to reflect, to rebuild, to plant seeds in quiet that will bloom later. Progress is not always loud. Growth is not always visible. And when the highs come, you receive them without clinging. You don't over-identify with success because you know it's just a season, not a permanent state. This perspective frees you because once you trust the rhythm, you no longer fear the fall. You know it's not the end, it's part of the loop. So the next time things feel unclear or slow, don't panic. Don't chase certainty. Trust the cycle. Move with the season. And remember, stability doesn't come from predicting what's next. It comes from trusting that whatever comes, you'll meet it with clarity, presence, and strength. Number 9, identity is built in the in-between. We tend to believe that our identity is shaped in breakthrough moments. When we land the job, publish the work, or achieve clarity after confusion. But the Stoics would tell you otherwise. They believed identity isn't forged in certainty. It's forged in tension. In the space between who you were and who you're becoming, in those quiet, unglamorous moments when no one sees your effort and you have every reason to quit, but you don't. Marcus Aurelius, writing to himself in the solitude of his study, reminded his soul, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." Sure, that wasn't a call to punishment. It was a call to integrity. Because the moments that shape who you are aren't the ones that are celebrated. They're the ones that are silent. When there's no recognition, no reward, just your inner voice asking, will you keep going anyway? Most people treat the in-between like a holding pattern, a place to wait. They tell themselves, I'll be disciplined when life is more stable, or I'll act with purpose once I have clarity. But the Stoic mindset says, how you act when nothing is clear reveals everything about who you are. Anyone can live with direction when the road is lit, but the Stoic learns to walk in the dark with faith, virtue, and consistency. Look at Jay, Rowling. Before she became a household name, she was broke, depressed, and uncertain of her future. But she didn't wait for her circumstances to change. She began anyway, writing in cafes with a baby beside her, showing up before there was praise. She once said, rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life. And that's exactly what the in-between offers us. A hidden forge, where the future self is quietly built through daily commitment. This is the heart of Stoicism. Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Notice, he didn't say, wait until you feel like it, or wait until others see your worth. He said, begin, with intention, with discipline, with small acts that stack into character. And that repetition, especially when things feel meaningless, is exactly what gives your life meaning. The in-between is uncomfortable, yes. You'll feel invisible, disoriented, maybe even defeated. But this is where the deepest self-work happens. When there's no spotlight, no scoreboard, no affirmation, only your principles. The Stoic doesn't need a finish line to start moving. They don't need proof to act in truth, because they understand that who you become is built most honestly when no one else is watching. So the next time you find yourself in transition, between jobs, between relationships, between versions of yourself, don't rush to skip that space. Don't numb it. Don't label it as wasted time. When instead live in it, train in it. Let it form you. Stack your habits. Refine your thoughts. Align your words and your actions, because the world may not see who you are becoming, but you will win. And if you remain faithful in that gap, your identity will not just survive, it will emerge unshakable. Number 10, life will change, so change with intention. Change is not optional. It will come, sometimes slowly, like a tide creeping in, sometimes abruptly, like a wave crashing down. But the one constant is this: life never stays still. The Stoics understood this deeply, not as a reason for fear, but as a call to live deliberately. If life is guaranteed to change, then wisdom lies not in resisting change, but in choosing how you change with it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Observe constantly that all things take place by change." His journals are filled with this realization. Nothing lasts, not pain, not pleasure, not even your current version of self. But this was not a reason for despair. It was a reason to wake up, to get serious, to ask, if change is the only constant, what kind of person do I want to be when the next shift arrives? Unfortunately, most people don't ask that. They treat change as an interruption. They wait for the storm to pass so they can get back to normal. But there is no going back. Life only moves forward. And the Stoic approach is not to brace for impact, but to prepare with clarity. You don't get to choose what happens, but you do choose how you'll rise to meet it. Take the example of Steve Jobs. After being publicly fired from Apple, the company he built with his own vision, he could have spiraled into bitterness or regret. But instead, he leaned into creativity. He started Pixar. He redefined his purpose. He reimagined what mattered. That season of loss became a catalyst for deeper growth. When he eventually returned to Apple, it wasn't to resume where he left off. It was to lead with a sharper mind and clearer intention. That transformation wasn't accidental. It was chosen. The This is the essence of prohoresis, a Stoic term for our ability to choose our response. The outer world may shift and collapse, but your inner world remains yours to direct. Seneca once warned, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Was. And wasting life in this context means drifting through change unconsciously, letting fear or apathy decide your path instead of wisdom. Intentional change isn't passive. It demands awareness but also courage. It means using disruption as a signal to slow down, recalibrate, and ask hard questions. Am I still becoming the person I respect? Have I outgrown who I've been pretending to be? These questions aren't comfortable, but they are necessary if you want to grow through change rather than shrink inside it. So the next time life cracks open beneath your feet, when the job ends, the relationship fades, or the dream dissolves, don't just react. Reflect in. Don't just cope. Choose. Ask, well, who must I become now? Then move, step by step, day by day, toward that version of yourself. Because life will change. That's a fact. But whether that change hardens you or refines you, that's still in your hands. When life feels uncertain and everything is shifting, remember this. You don't need to control the future. You just need to control who you are becoming. The Stoics didn't resist change. They used it. They built strength, clarity, and peace, not in spite of change, but through it. If today is hard, let it shape you. If tomorrow is unclear, walk toward it with intention. And if this video brought you clarity, like it, share it, and subscribe. Because on this channel, we don't run from life. We rise through it. Together,